And so Paul is going to address these issues of these heresies by primarily elevating and pointing out the supremacy of Jesus Christ above all other gods, all other names, all other kingdoms. And so Jesus Christ is going to be elevated in the book of Colossians. But in this little introduction, in this greeting that Paul brings to the church, what I discovered and what we're going to discover is the evidence of true Christianity. Because even though Paul is talking about the people and he's talking about his own life and he's talking about Epaphras, in the midst of that, he gives us the characteristics of true Christianity. And you know, James Dobson recently said, it was actually at the RNC convention, and he said something when he endorsed Donald Trump. I'm not politically trying to make any statements about anybody here when it comes to who you should vote for or who should be endorsed. What I am saying is that James Dobson said something very interesting. He says, you can't fake good kids. And he's looking at the character of Donald Trump and he's looking at his children and he's saying, you can't fake that. And I'll also say in respect to that you can't fake Christianity. If you are truly born again, it's the only possible way of actually living what Paul is going to describe and what we're going to study today. You can't fake this stuff. You can't maintain it. You can be really loving for a short period of time under the right circumstances, but you cannot maintain agape love outside of the power of a transformed life by God. All the things that we discuss and these 4 items that we're going to kind of cover this morning are only possible because of Christ, which means that one of the greatest evidences of a truly born-again person is a transformed life. Not just simply what we say, but the life that we lead and the life that we live. And so Paul begins in verse 3 by talking about his thankful heart. He says, we give thanks to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. This is the first thing I want to point out, that the truly transformed, genuine Christian life is a life that's marked by thanksgiving. And Paul made it a practice to live that way. It's interesting that all of his epistles and his letters start out with some form of thanks. And if you'll allow me for a moment to read some of his opening statements to the various churches and to capture the heart of this guy who was a very hard man prior to becoming a Christian, a ladder climber, probably quite ruthless in his pursuit of position and power and authority. And yet because of Christ, there was a remarkable change. And in Romans chapter 1, he says, I thank my God through Jesus Christ for all of you. In Ephesians chapter 1, he says, I have not stopped giving thanks for you, remembering you in my prayers. When he wrote the Thessalonican church, he said, we always give thanks to God for all of you, mentioning you in our prayers. To Philemon, he says, I always thank my God as I remember you in my prayers. And Philippians, he says to the Philippian church, I thank my God every time I remember you. In all of my prayers for all of you, I always pray with joy because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now. Man, this is the kind of guy that you want to have write a letter to you, you know? I mean, can you imagine getting around somebody or having an email from somebody or somebody's Facebooking you, and every time they say, I just thank God for you. I was just thanking God for you just a couple minutes ago. And I wanted to tell you how blessed I am to be your friend. I mean, isn't that what Facebook is all about? Just trying to find people like that? And experience something like that, and everyone's climbing the ladder that's not leaning on any wall at all and never getting any of that. But Paul was a man that gave it away freely. He was just a very thankful person. And what makes his thankfulness even more remarkable are the circumstances that he faced in life. Listen to the litany of things that Paul went through from 2 Corinthians chapter 11 that was a part of his life even while he was writing this. He says, I'm frequently in prison. I've been flogged 5 times. I've been shipwrecked 3 times. I was beaten with rods 3 times and stoned once. I'm constantly in danger from rivers and bandits and my countrymen, from Gentiles, from the city, in the country, and at sea. And I have constant fear and danger from false brethren who call themselves believers but who are not. And if this weren't enough, Paul is in prison at the very time he writes this. And the reason he's in prison is for preaching Christ. He's in prison for doing what God told him to do. And he very easily could have been bitter and angry and disillusioned and depressed. But no, not Paul. He's thankful.